Is this working? Ooh, it is. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to be doing, really want to get better at Golang and TDD. So I'm just going to start going through the advent of code. I don't know if you are familiar with advent of code. I'll introduce it real quick. It's basically little problems that you can solve in any language, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 2015 in Golang in preparation to be ready for this year's 2021 advent of code. So I'm going to get rid of my face. You don't want to see me anyways. And what I'm going to do is share with you the advent of code website right here. There's puzzles, there's different years. It shows you, what it should show you, events. You can get stars. I sort of stopped halfway through last year. I'm going to do 2015. I did it before in Python, this one. I'm going to be restarting it in Go. So let's go. So first, let's see. I am going to start from the very, very beginning. I have some folders here for some other years. All I have in here right now is a template file. Basically, it's my, some sort of template files for the tests, running them. You'll see when I pull it over. So I'm going to copy those over. I'm going to make a new folder called 01 because we're starting on day 1, and go into that folder. There's all the, I'm going to use the VS Code. We'll stop looking at this, pull in VS Code, and read the instructions for the first day here. All right, let's see. So the goal is to get 50 stars, 1 star per problem. Each day has 2 problems that sort of build off of each other. 25 days from December 1st to December 25th gets you those 50 stars. Again, you'll recall that I said I did this before in Python. I'm going to redo it again in Go though. So as I had mentioned, I'm going to try to be doing test-driven development. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is basically you make your tests before you write your code, and it takes a little while longer in the short term, but you should have pretty solid stuff in the long term. So let's get cracking. Again, I mentioned that I have this template. It has some files for some input, main test package, pretty bare bones. Main Go package basically has invoking the first function, part 1 here, and just sort of error checking right here, and then loading this input into a form. And we'll probably end up having to change that every time. All right, so let's look over the problem. Oh, good. It's easy. So Santa's trying to deliver presents. Starts on floor 0. Open parentheses means he goes up a floor, plus 1 floor. Close parentheses means he goes down 1 floor, minus 1 floor. Very tall. All right, so here's some test cases. And let's see, and if we go look, we should get the puzzle input. So we'll open this in a new tab. And so this is the puzzle input. So the first thing I'll do is copy all of that and dump it in the input file and save that. And I'll notice that this is just one long line. Oops, I think I might have moved some of those. Let me paste it again. Save it, close out of it. All right, so we don't need that anymore. Now let's go to the test and open up a terminal here. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is, you know, when we're thinking about it, we're going to have to iterate through each of these characters and do sort of an operation for each. So what I'm going to want this to be in the format of is a slice or an array that I could iterate through. So let's go look at, let's start with this. This is sort of a longer one. And I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put it in input test. Let's save that. And so my first test is going to be that I can successfully load that input. And what I'm going to want to do is, and what this testing says, it is equal to, and so there's going to be two values here. One is what I sort of want the result to look like, and this is what my function, for example, will output. And if it is equal, the test will pass. So what I'm going to do is say that I want the output to be a slice of strings that has the following. This is kind of annoying. This is going to be really annoying. Get a comma in between these guys. So what I'm basically saying here is that what I want is an array, or in Go they call it a slice, containing these strings. And again, these strings are what should be made when we have this test input go through. All right, so save. And what we're going to be doing is calling load input with the string input test dot text. Now, in real test-driven development, we would, not even have this load input. So let's just get rid of it for now, and sort of go through the motions with test-driven development. And I'm just going to make this bigger for now. All right, so main Go test load input. All right, so we would. Say go test, and what it's going to do is tell us that load input is undefined because we don't have a load input function, right? So go and make it. And I'm going to skip some of these steps of pure test-driven development and go ahead and run this again. So what it should do is this, function is taking in a string. I want it to return with an array of strings, just like I have right there. Input I'm initializing as sort of that format that I want. I'm going to open the file. I'm going to check that error. I'm going to iterate through the strings in that file and make a list of that data. Let's see. test it now. Oh, it passes. Okay, good. So now I know that my ability to import a file of that same format is going to give me that output no matter how large it is. Okay, so that's good. Let me just copy this and make another section here. Let me call this part 1, and get rid of some of these here. So what is part 1? There's going to be I'm going to be pretty vague here, right? Part 1, I'm going to start with this string here. Let's see. All right, so we know that the test input outputs as this, successfully. So we can sort of start with that, or we could just do this as our, that's probably better, even though it's sort of more of an integration test, perhaps. It's still doing that. Okay. So our test input is this, part 1, test input. Okay, and what do we want out of it? So if you'll recall, they gave us what the output should be is 3, right? So we want the output to be what floor we're going to end up on, which is 3. Okay, so let's run that test, and it's going to say fail. All right, why would it fail? Because we haven't done anything yet over here. All right, part 1, it accepts a string. Let's call this data or something like that, and it's going to output. All right, we want an int. First of all, right, that'll fix this part right here. Let's just make it, a number. So now let's go back and test. All right, well, we have the right data type now, but it's not the same. All right. So what are we going to do to get this? First of all, we're going to have to iterate through all that data. So let's set up a loop. So again, I'm newer at Go, so I'm probably going to get this a little bit wrong. So let's see, for, I'm going to call it step. Range, so we're going to range over data, and we're going to say if step, so that should be the individual parenthesis, right? Equals, let's see, make this a little bit smaller so that I can step equals that. Oh, we forgot one thing. Well, I forgot one thing. We, on this journey, we're going to do the floor, because remember, we're going up and down floors, and we're going to initialize that at 0, equal sign 0, okay? And if step equals that one, remember, we go up 1 floor. So floor plus equals 1, well, is the same operation as floor equals floor plus 1. So it's basically just tacking 1 onto it. All right. So that should deal with, why isn't it like this? Oh, because in a for loop, right, you get two values. You get the index, right, which is an int, and then this is the value within these strings. I don't plan on doing anything with this. In Go, if you name something, you have to call it, but if you put an underscore there, you don't have to call it. All right, so if that floor equals one, you add one on, or if floor equals the other way, we're going to subtract one. All right, so that should cover going through all the data. What do we got here? We got it's a little extra friend. Get rid of that. And we're going to return floor. So this should iterate through all of our floors, adding one if it looks like that, subtracting one if it looks like that. Once it gets to the end of this for loop, it's ranged over all the data, we will return floor. All right, let's see how it tests. Again, remember we're testing our test amount that we said if we input that, it should equal 3, which is what it said right there. All right, and all right, it works. Just to show you that it would be different. It could fail, right? We could change that to 2, which should be, a failing test, and it would fail there. We don't want that, obviously. All right, so I think we're ready to test number 1 here. All right, because we know that we can read, and we know that if we run one of these, we could also do. Put that in here and not have to deal with this at all. Let's see if that works. I think I've got some parentheses that need to be dealt with. All right, test that again. All right, that works. So now what we could do is even test a couple more of these, right? Let's see, copy, paste. Let's make one of them this. We'll call it, and rename this to test 2. And we'll call this one, just get rid of that for now. Rename that to test 3. And how about we do this one? And save that. Shoot, I might lose track of these. So we got 3, should be -3. And we did this one, right? So it should still be 3. All right, let's test them again. All 3 of those tests. It's mad. Oh, because I did this twice. That's, oops. 2. All right, now let's try it again. Works, great. All right, so let's go ahead and try to run our actual main.go here with our actual data. So what we got here is it's going to take the time, it's going to load actual input.txt, and it's going to print out part 1 answer and give us a timestamp. So Go run main.go. All right, part 1, 280 in 600 or so microseconds. That's what I got before. All right, so we got part 1. Now let's do part 2. Go back to the tests. I made this bigger. All right, let's see. Part 2. Find the position of the first character that causes him to enter the basement. All right, so floor -1. So floor -1. And see, I haven't submitted the answer to this yet. So let's just delete this and add another section here. Test part 2. And we've got instead of doing the load input, I'm just going to say part 2 here. Let's see. They only have 2 test cases here, so I'm going to get rid of this one. And we're just going to input what that would actually be. So let's, how big is the biggest one? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just do it all. So I'm going to dump that in there. Dump that in there. Remember, this is what it should be accepting, right? And so this first test case right here, right, is just 1. So I'm going to make it just 1. And the other one is, let's see. I'm going to make sure, oh, Jesus. So that's right. That's right. Right, and that's the end. All right, so tell me if this is wrong. What do we got here? Oh, that's why. All right, that's fine. This answer should be 1, and this answer should be 5 because it is the position within this array. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure I'm not tricked. Oh, that's the problem. Should be just part 2 here. And, all right. So, all right, let's run it. Go test. It's gonna yell at us. Int bool. All right, so let's start developing this. We are receiving this, we're going to call it again data, returning an int. We're going to set that as 1 just for now. All right, so even though I'm just going to copy this whole thing over here because I can just use the same thing. Let's do that. You know, normally you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to find a way to sort of incorporate common things, but let's just take it slow today and get this done. So, all right. So we're going to do the same thing, floor, starting at 0. But this time we're going to use this, right? Index, all right. So we're going to start with index. We're going to step through. If you go up a floor, there's no way that you can first enter the basement. I think we can agree on that, right? The only time you'll go into the basement is if you go down 1 floor. All right, so let's put some logic in here. Now, if floor is less than 0, right? Yeah. Then We're in the basement, right? And we will want to return index plus 1. Because remember, the index is going to start at 0, and that's not what we want. We want the step. All right, so let's... we don't want that at all. Actually, and if we don't hit... I mean, we should probably hit it, right? Because there's an answer, right? But just because we'll return 0, it should never be floor 0, so we'll know that if it's 0, return 0, something's wrong. So let's run our tests with this, and it passes. So that means that our test cases right here have passed. All right. So now let's go back here to uncomment out these. Go part 2. Part 2 data. Yeah, that should be all we need to call that. Let's run it. All right, it says 1797 in less than a millisecond. That's fun. I don't think I did that. I'll just type it in here. All right, let's type it in here. 1797. There it is. Right answer, 1 gold star. Huzzah. All right, so that was starting with our tests and working our way through the tests. Now we could probably refactor these. You know, instead of evaluating this, we could have an else or something here. You know, that would work. We don't have any errors if it isn't one of these things that we're expecting. So there could be some improvement on here. But for now, I'm going to finish this up. We're going to save these and I'll push it out to GitHub. And tomorrow at lunch, I'm going to do this again. And I'm glad that this took about half an hour because that's the amount of time I want to take every day doing this. All right, so let's look here. Let's just get a little preview of day 2 so that I can think about it because a lot of this is thinking about it. So let's see. Wrapping paper, order more wrapping paper, length and width, height of each present. All right, so we got a 3D object. They want exactly how much wrapping paper they need. That is not how I wrap presents. Box, perfect rectangular. No, that's not how my presents look either. Find the surface area of each box, which is 2 times length and width, 2 times width and height. Okay, so this is the 2 top and the bottom of the box, one sides of the box and the other sides of the box. So they're giving us the formula for finding the surface area of each box. It looks like, let's see, let's open up the puzzle imprint in a new tab. Gotcha. So what we're going to be getting is the dimensions of each box. We're going to have to parse those. Plus 6 feet. I see. Okay. Plus a little extra, which is the area of the smallest side. Gotcha. So you'd have to do the length and the width of each of them to find the smallest side. Well, we can go over this tomorrow. But yeah, looks like it'll be fun. All right. See you back tomorrow to go over day 2. Take care.